What's up, brother?
Appreciate you coming on, man.
Oh, anytime.
Coming on, man. I appreciate it. We're going to have some fun.
Yep.
I know you got a lot going on, to say the least.
Understatement.
Yeah. What are you working on now? What do you got going on?
Life. To be honest.
Tell me about life.
Life is good.
Yeah.
Life, there's just a lot happening.
Yeah.
We just had a son, Solomon, just turned a year. It went by so fast. But it was like back to back to back. We sold the place, built a new house, moved in on the 13th. He was born on the 22nd. I'm sorry, the 26th. It's just been like, the past year has just been like back to back to back to back to back things. All great things, all positive things, but it's a lot.
Yeah, man.
Building a house, building a family, still maintaining work, I shut down my commercial studio space a couple of years back. We finally started to, we're almost done with the build out for my space at home, my workspace at home.
Downstairs?
Yeah.
What else needs to be done?
There were room treatments that we did. There were, and after we did that, I was waiting for a lot of the gear to come in. So now we're just doing the acoustic treatment.
How do you like working from home?
No, it's great. I mean, I've always had some sort of a workspace at home.
Yeah.
But the way it's set up now, it's great because when I don't want to, it's different working from home when you live in an apartment versus when you have a multi-floor house. When you're in an apartment, you're kind of waking up next to just, your work. When you have a house, you can just say, all right, I'm closing that door and I'm going back to regular life. You know what I mean? You need that separation. I used to hate working from home, but that was when I had an apartment, just a small space. Everything was kind of within proximity of each other.
Yeah.
Especially when I was younger, when we didn't have much money and I lived in a studio apartment. I was like waking up next to the drum machine. You want to have that separation.
You got to work separate church and state.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then, but what about, do you have to have people over your home, or is a lot of your work just independent?
A lot of my work is done, it's a combination of both. Sometimes I'll have, people over to the house. See, the great thing is we have a separate entrance. So people don't have to ever
you do? Where?
Yeah,
in the
through
back?
the garage.
Oh, yeah, I never, okay.
Yeah, so through the garage, you can just go right into the lower level where the studio spaces and the lounge spaces. And you don't have to, I don't have to have you in my house to work.
Yeah.
Some people I don't mind. Some people are respectful. Let me rephrase that. There are certain people that I work with that I don't mind having in the house. There are others that I wouldn't have in the house, not because they're bad people, but because they may travel with a large crew of people.
Yeah.
So in that case, we just rent a commercial space, But I've had T.I. was at the house a few weeks ago. We were working. It was just him and his security. Not even his security. Him and one driver. His driver, who actually turns out is an old friend of mine.
It's a small world.
Yeah, it really is. We worked at the house for a few hours, and he went on his way. And that's the beauty of the way technology is these days, is that you can. I'll give you a perfect example. I have a friend who has a record that sold 5 million copies. Wrote it and recorded it in his bedroom in his underwear.
How great is that?
And it's like the way technology has changed for musicians and producers and engineers. Things that used to cost us tens of thousands of dollars now cost nothing. The fact of the matter is you can write, record, produce, mix and master an entire album in your bedroom.
But does that hinder what you do because it's made it cheaper? So have you had to lower your prices?
No.
Or no? Or is it kind of weeded out a lot of people and only now it's just the...
Well, I think what happens, it's a gift and a curse, because what happens is the creation of the art, creation of music, creation of anything these days is a lot more accessible because of technology. The same way I can make a record in my bedroom, somebody could shoot a movie, on an iPhone. There are movies that are released in theaters that are being shot on iPhones.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's like two of them. I forget that have come out. I forget the names, but like even if you're not going the iPhone route, you can get yourself a Canon C100 or for $6,000, $7,000, whatever it costs. Point is, technology has made it very easy to be creative.
Yeah.
The gift of that is people who don't come from a lot of money or don't have a lot of money can still have access to quality professional tools.
Leveling the playing field.
Right. The bad part is that you have a lot of people who have no business making music, or they're not artists. People who have no business doing that, attempting to do it. But I'm a firm believer in cream rises to the top, one way or another.
Yeah.
And it is good to have a level playing field. Everybody has the same shot and the same opportunity, so to speak.
Yeah. And then, so technology has made it great, and this way you can kind of be on your own and do all these things that used to take a collaborative effort.
Right.
How do you see from the social side of things? What's the pro? Or so we understand the pro.
Right.
But what's the con, and how does it relate
to
to
that? Is because there's less contact between the people in my world. That natural synergy that comes about from having everybody in one room shooting creative ideas back and forth gets kind of lost. There is something to be said for like the producer, the songwriter, the engineer, the artist, to all be in the same room together and kind of coming together to make the best product possible. You don't get that same creative synergy when you're emailing files back and forth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So don't get me wrong, it's great that I can collaborate with somebody in the UK, via email and texting and shooting files back and forth. But there's a synergy there's an irreplaceable synergy that comes about when you have a group of people in the room all working on one thing together.
Yeah. Do you still, is it just, it's not happening as often, or is it?
Yeah, no, I mean, it just doesn't happen as often because it just, it's not to say that like I'm isolated in my house and I don't work with anybody. Like I said, artists come by the house all the time. But it happens less often because it's less necessary from a technical standpoint. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It used to be like, if I was working on a record for somebody, I had to go to a studio and track the music and lay it down. The artist was coming to the session if they were in town, and the A&R was stopping by. And there's just that camaraderie and community. Now it's just like, email me a link to download, download the record.
Well, how important have relationships been to your success?
Oh, relationships are everything. I was just speaking at a conference this past weekend in Toronto, and they were asking me about advice for younger producers and songwriters and just people in the business in general. My main point that I was trying to hammer home was relationship is everything. When you're the new hot young producer or writer or artist, or in any facet of that in my world, people are gonna flock to you regardless because you're hot right now. When the next person comes in and you're not the hot kid on the block, the work you get is determined by the relationships that you forge and the creative experiences or the experiences that people have had with you. There are times when I've had 7 records on the radio at once, 3 records in the top 20, 5 records in the top 40. And there are times where I've had nothing going on of that magnitude. But I was still able to work and still do work on cool and creative projects because I've always done good business and I've always tried to make working with me a pleasurable experience, a fun, creative experience. You know what I mean? Like, it's, I'll give you a perfect example. rebooted the A-Team, maybe 7 or 8 years ago. They had the
A-Team, like B.A. Baracus
yeah,
A-Team? And,
the movie that came out.
Yeah,
If you
yeah.
remember, there was a movie that came out. So they needed a remix of the theme. They wanted to make it a bit more modern. The movie had already been shot. The marketing had already been done. So they didn't really have much money left to to put towards remixing the thing. They give me a call through through just the mutual friends that were involved. They called me. They're like, "Listen, we'd like you to take a crack at the theme. Problem is, we don't have a lot of money. It's a kind of a last minute afterthought, but we think it's something that we should really do. You're one of the guys that we really would like to, take a shot at it." And it wasn't a lot of money. It wasn't a chump change, but it wasn't what I would normally get for something like that. Sure, no problem. Got it done. Did the remix. They loved it. They shot a bunch of additional content around the thing that I did. And that, we all went on our way, and that was done. Fast forward about 3 years later, I get a call from the guy that I dealt with at Fox. Like, "Hey, I don't know if you remember me. My name is Martin. We worked on this A-Team thing." I'm like, "Yeah, of course I remember you. What's going on?" So he's like, "So you ever heard of Ice Age, the Ice Age movies?" And I'm like, "Of course. I've seen them in the theaters." And he's like, "So we're working on that now. I think it was Ice Age 4. And we were thinking of some musical content that we need for the movie, and your name came up." And he was in a meeting, and I guess one of the VPs was like, "Who's that guy, Justin something, whatever, that did the A-Team thing?" And they were like, "Oh, Just Blaze." Boom. "Yeah, get that guy." And it was really because I did the favor for them, looked out, did the A-Team thing for next to nothing, gave them a quality product, made the experience worthwhile and easy. And next thing I know, I'm getting a call 3 years later based on that favor that I did to work on something with a real actual budget. You know what I mean? Had I just taken the route a lot of people would have taken, like, "You want me to do this A-Team thing for how much?" Oh, no, I'm worth more than that. Sometimes you have to know when to hold your ground in terms of what you're worth and when to do that favor for somebody, because it may be worth so much more, down the
long
line.
game.
Exactly. And, that said, I don't always necessarily go into things thinking, what can I get out of this? Because that's not that's not a good way to approach it. You know what I mean? You should look at it as, the way I tend to look at it is, if I can do something for somebody, I will. If I get blessed in return, down the line, great. But I don't do it with the intention of, "Oh, now you're going to owe me a favor, so I'll do this for you."
So is this something that you learned on your own? Or, I mean, I know your mom, and she's great, so I know there's has to be some major influence there.
Yeah,
so,
that was something that, that was something my mom definitely instilled from the early age. Like, her thing was always the do unto others.
Yeah.
As you'd have them do to you. That was, that's kind of like one of her big cardinal rules. So,
Would you say that your industry, though, is like that?
no,
Yeah.
I don't think any industry where there's a lot of money involved is like that at all. It's a very cutthroat business.
Yeah, and you dealt with the top, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's
So it's a interesting thing though. The further up, closer to the top you get, the easier it is, because most of those people are already successful and they're secure.
you hit the nail. I call it, the security mindset versus
Right.
the abundance versus lack of abundance.
Right. It's like people almost look at it backwards. They're like, "Oh, there's those superstars. There must be so much drama." And I'm like, no, it's actually super easy. They know what they're worth. They know what they bring to the table. They know what you're bringing to the table. That's why they hired you. You know, that's why they want to work with you. And there's no insecurities there that, you know, it's very different. I always tell people the hardest artists that I had to work with are the ones who really haven't made it yet, or the ones who have just made it but haven't done it 3 or 4, 5, 6 times over yet.
Yeah.
You know?
So interesting. I was with a friend of mine the other day, and he worked for MTV for years, and he says he'll never forget. This is an ongoing MTV thing that they talk about. So
right.
they're interviewing Christina Aguilera, and maybe I shouldn't say this name, and maybe I'll take it out. And they interview her, and this was going to be her first time on MTV, and they said, "Oh, would you like a water?" And they handed her water, and what she did is she turned and she put the water up like that to have somebody open the water. So this is, you know, and they're like, wow, okay. The next person that came in was Tony Bennett. You know who Tony Bennett is, you know, I mean, world class, right. Everybody knows, the guy's been around. They said before he even sat down, Tony Bennett walked around, shook everybody's hand, patted them on the back, asked them a little bit about who they were, what they were like.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
And so when they offered him water, the person that was interviewing him was having trouble with their bottle. Right. Tony reaches over
and opens the bottle for him.
And opens the bottle.
That's exactly my point. It's there's something that comes along with the security, and knowing how to treat people.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of people don't realize that. It's like it's harder to be a jerk. It takes more energy to be a jerk.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like let me put this the right way. When you're that successful in your life, financially, as a person, whatever, there's really just not that much to be pretentious about. You know what I mean? And I've seen so many people, you know, I was fortunate. I've seen so many people fall from grace. Because I used to intern at a recording studio. So I used to see the cycles. How the people came and went and came and went. And the ones who were the cocky ones, who just felt like they were better than anybody else, in various walks of the industry, I just kind of watched them come and go, come and go, come and go. The ones who knew how to treat people fairly or treat them like people, regardless of their stature, their position, are the ones who always kind of just find a way to exist in the mix. You know? I think I can boil it down to one thing. This is an argument I used to have with one of my old business partners all the time. You don't want to be that person that everybody works with because they have to. You want to be the person that people work with because they want to. Because when they work with you because they have to, as soon as they don't have to,
you're out. You're done. So have you always been grounded? So I'll tell you a funny story. Do you know, this is really funny. Do you know how I know what you, or who you are or what you did? Did Brian ever tell you the story?
She may have, I don't remember.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know, here, I'll rewind. So you remember where we met? At the drone?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So my kids, there's a drone. This drone, you were early. Yeah. This is years ago. Drones just came out or whatever.
Right.
I'm playing with my kids. The kids see the thing up there. We see this drone. We're following around. We're like, we'll figure out where it is. And
right.
It comes out. So it's you and whatever. So you let the kids do the drone.
Yeah.
Everyone was having fun.
Right.
It was just fun.
Yeah.
Whatever. So I see you around town for, I don't know. It is probably
a couple months, a few months.
Yeah, at least. Actually, this is longer. So this is probably about a year. So I figure you're well-to-do. I know you're home. I see what you drive, whatever. But whatever. We never talked business or anything.
Right.
So I forgot what it was. Brian was over one time, and I had music going on. I like hip hop,
Right.
you know. So
Yeah, I
she
remember-
told
yeah,
you
yeah,
the
yeah,
story.
I remember this now. Yeah.
So for those who don't know, I think this tells a lot about who you are. So I like hip hop,
Right.
and hip hop doesn't always have the nicest language
Right.
or whatever going on. So I said, and I didn't know her well, and I
Right.
didn't know who. I don't know. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I was like, let me lower the music or whatever. She goes, no. She goes, I like that. She's like, or said something to that effect.
Right.
She's like, you know who that is? And I don't know if it was Jay-Z. I forgot. I don't even know who it was.
Right.
And I say that, and she's like, no. She's like, that's Justin. And I'm like, I didn't understand.
Right.
I didn't understand. So then she explains, don't you know, who? And I'm like, no. And then she tells me, and I'm
Right.
like, oh, that's really funny because I know all of your work, but
Right.
didn't know it was you.
Right.
So my point is that how have you always been? That's great. Like it's just
Yeah,
nice
I've always
to
just kind of.
yeah.
I prefer to kind of move under the radar. You know what I mean? Makes life a little bit easier. I prefer to. I used to have a term for it. I can't remember what it was, but it's like you're low key enough to have privacy, just have a life, but you have just enough notoriety to get ahead.
To get the benefit of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the way I like to move.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the guy that like when I show up, it's a scene, it causes there's a commotion.
It's gotta be uncomfortable.
Yeah, I don't like that. I'd rather just be the guy that once people find out, oh, that's who that is. All right, let's take care of them.
Yeah.
You know
That's
what I mean?
nice.
Yeah, just keep it low key
Yeah.
and simple. It makes life so much easier to navigate through.
Have you had to deal with any privacy issues or anything? I know, like when you were selling your home, you had to kind of.
Yeah,
You did.
it happened every once in a while. It hasn't been too bad because I've never really carried myself like a celebrity or a superstar. When you don't carry yourself that way, or if you carry yourself that way, let me rephrase that. If you carry yourself like a superstar, you're part of that is like calling attention to yourself. And I don't like that. I always just kind of preferred to be low key and be able to go out and move about like a normal person, but have the benefits of my associations, and it just makes life easier. And I think it just also boils down to like, my perspective in terms of my profession. Mm-hmm. I know I've done some great things, but I'm still learning every day.
Like what kind of stuff are you learning?
I mean, just in terms of when it comes to music.
Yeah.
Like I'm still learning every day. There's new techniques. There's just music is the same way. There are a zillion different combinations of numbers. Like music is math, basically, right? So when you boil it down to it, that's what it is. There's millions and millions and millions of different combinations of numbers. There's millions and millions and millions of different combinations of notes and sounds. And the second you think you know it all is the second that your career starts to, well, you're on the road to decline. I've always just kind of, like I said, I'm inspired by the fact that there's always something new to learn when it comes to music and production and songwriting and things like that. So when you carry yourself that way, the humility kind of comes with the territory. You know what I mean? Like, people always ask, well, how do you stay so grounded? But you carry yourself. I'm like, 'cause I'm still constantly learning things. You know what I mean? And I love it. I'm blessed and fortunate to have this is my 20th year in the business. Most producers, especially when it comes to hip hop and electronic music in general, things of that nature, urban music, you get 2 or 3 years, you're in and
Kidding
around.
me? Lifespan's that short? What do you do then after that? What is
you make the most money that you can, cash out, and whatever happens from there is what happens. If you look at the producers who were on the charts 3 years ago, half of them aren't there now. And that's just the way music works in general. Especially now because it's so accessible, the sounds are constantly changing.
Yeah.
So records, the shelf life for records in terms of like popular music, it's getting shorter and shorter and shorter. So for me to be able to maintain relevance through different avenues over the years, or for the past 20 years, like I can't take that for granted. You know what I mean? I mean, obviously part of it is due to my talent, but a lot of it is also due to, like I said, the moves that I made and the way I did my business.
So talent, adaptability, relationships.
Yeah.
Would you say are three?
Probably the three main pillars.
What would you say from some of the artists and some of the other people that you're working with? What would you, same thing or?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can kind of apply those three pillars to anything.
Yeah.
You know, whether, to be honest, in any profession.
Yeah, it's true. That's a good point.
It's really what it comes, really what it comes down to. Whether you're an accountant, working for somebody, whether you're, an ideas guy, or whether you're a songwriter or whatever, you kind of have to have those three things.
If you weren't in music, what do you think you'd be doing right now?
Likely computer programming.
Yeah, because you went to school for that, right?
I mean, I was doing it before I went to school for it. Like I was always into just technology in general. I was a tinkerer when I was a kid. Like I appreciated the fact that a computer could do what it does, but I was always the kind of kid that wanted to know how it did what it did.
How much has that curiosity contributed to your success?
A ton of it. I mean, you gotta realize, like I said before, music is numbers. When we're programming music, we're coding. We're not coding something that you visually see on the screen, it's something that you hear, But there's so many parallels between computer programming and coding and writing songs and production. They kind of all goes hand in hand. And the technology, I think my curiosity in regards to technology is what led me at a very, very young age to like, all right, I hear this music on the radio. I want to know how it's being made. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What are they using to do this? And me having access to certain small things, like, my dad was a jazz organist. So he had his organs and pianos in the house, but then he also had synthesizers and keyboards and things like that. And then he was also a computer programmer. So I was kind
of all coming together.
Right. So I was around all of that.
Yeah.
At a time when music technology was rapidly evolving. Those two worlds of mine, between the music and the technology, ended up coalescing into me wanting to make music and learning how to DJ and things of that nature. And fast forward 30 years later, here we are.
Yeah, that's great. Who have been some of the best people that you've worked with, and what's made them so good to work with?
I've had, I've been fortunate and blessed to work with a lot of great artists. And from people like, Jay-Z, Beyonce, Eminem, Drake, Lil Wayne, Busta Rhymes. The list goes on and on. I've been blessed to work with a bunch of huge names, but going back to what we were saying earlier, people always ask me, who's some of your favorites to work with, whatever, and I'm like, don't get me wrong, people have bad days or off days or whatever, but I don't really have any nightmare sessions. I never really had like extreme difficulty with an artist because most of the artists that I worked with were very successful. So some songs be a little bit of a struggle here or there, but it's not a creative struggle. It's not a personal struggle. It's more so a creative struggle. Like, how do we get from point A to point B? So the reason I say all that is to say, like, I don't necessarily have, because I never really because I haven't really had a bunch of bad experiences, I don't necessarily have favorites.
So it's really interesting, and sorry to cut you off, but so we have a mutual friend, I'm not going to say who that person is, and they do what you do,
Right.
And they don't have any personal relationships with their clients, and they've got some big clients too.
Right.
but they don't have any personal relationships. And I know you have personal relationships with these people because.
But you know, I think for me, like a lot of times when I work with an artist, my approach is let's just hang out.
Yeah.
You know, like, because you could have a great producer, a great songwriter, a great artist. Doesn't mean they're going to make a great product. There has to be a commodity there and an energy there as well.
So do you hang out first and then get to work, or you just, is it just like they just get?
And that's the thing. Like, I kind of try to treat my sessions like hanging out.
Yeah.
You know, as much as possible. Like the music will come. Let's just kick it.
Yeah.
You know, in my experience, my best records have happened spontaneously. Where, you know, lightning strikes, and all of a sudden it's just, all right, boom, let's build on that idea. When you walk into the studio with this mission of, we're gonna make a hit single today, it never works.
It's not gonna happen, huh?
No, it's like the guy who wakes up and says, today I'm gonna write a book that's gonna change the world. No, it's, you know, or I'm gonna write this song that changes the world. No, it's like, it doesn't work like that.
What's the life cycle of a song from?
I mean, for me, it can start anywhere. You know, I can be inspired by another song that I heard. I can be inspired by the emotion. You know, the initial inspiration can come from anywhere. Chord progression that just pops into your head. But for me, in my experience, if I spend more than 15, 20 minutes getting that initial idea out, I move on.
Interesting. And then do you come up with the idea, find the artists, or the artists are like, hey, you know, I've worked with...
It's always different. There's no formula to it. Yeah, there's really no formula.
Okay.
There's times when the artist has come to me and said, hey, listen, I have an idea for a hook. It goes like this. And they sing it, or they rap it, or whatever. Then you have some artists who are just like, I have this dance that I do. I need something to go along with that dance.
Oh, it runs the gamut.
Yeah. Or you have an artist who says, I don't know what I want. Just play something for me.
And then will you have riffs set up, or
sometimes, like, or I'll just mix. You know, like I said, there's literally no formula. You know, it's we're all just vessels for creative energy that comes through us. You know, sometimes the right lightning strikes or the right energy flows through us, and you have a hit record.
And then do you ever, you know, do you ever make connections like, oh, hey, Jay-Z, you need to talk to such and such because you guys are on the same idea, you guys have the same type of riff, or maybe, you know, or you know that people would coalesce well? Yeah,
sometimes it's not even about like, I actually do that a lot. And it's not from my own personal gain. It's just like, wait a minute, you do this and you do this, you guys need to know each other.
Yeah.
You know,
how do you go about making that introduction? That's something a lot of people struggle with. I hear it all the time, like, oh, I know that they should meet, and whether they're afraid one person's not going to respond to the other. How do you facilitate that introduction?
I just go group text intro.
Yeah,
you know,
and that's it. And just let it run, or do you facilitate it? Do you spoon feed it?
Yeah, no, I tend to just say, listen, this is why I'm going to introduce you to this person, and this is why you need to know them, and vice versa.
Yeah. Okay, so you lay it out there.
Do you mind if I put you guys in the group text? No? All right, cool. Let's do it.
Double opt-in.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. Like, I actually do a lot of dot connecting. And for me, it's about like when we're in the studio, right? Sometimes people will be hesitant to do something if it doesn't benefit them directly. One of the things that I've learned over the years is you just do whatever is best for the sake of the song. Whether it's something, if that means cutting your share down because there's a co-producer or a co-writer who you know will kill a part of a song and you can make it great, you have to do that. Here's the thing, all right, like, let's just say we have this record that has a potential, as it stands right now, it's a potentially could sell 500,000 copies. I'm just making up a situation.
Sure, yeah.
You know, and I want to own 100% of it. but there's another writer who I know could maybe kill the bridge section and add some extra stuff to the hook, I might have to give them 25% of the record, but then it has the potential to sell 5 million as opposed to 500,000.
I'm in.
Right, but that's the thing, is that some people can't see the forest for the trees. So it's like,
Greed, scarcity. What do you think's there?
yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Not being, or just being unwilling to share credit with somebody else.
There'll be those 2 to 3 year people you're talking about.
Right. Yeah, and it's just like, dude, do what's best for the sake of the record. If adding this person onto it cuts a bit of your take, but it adds that much more to the record, it makes it that much more of a better record, then just do it.
And more people listen to it, more people hear it, you get more broader notoriety.
Exactly, and you'll end up making more money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, do you want 100% of $100 or 80% of $1,000?
I'm in. It's a no-brainer to me. What was what's the nicest thing someone's ever done for you, outside of a family member?
Well, I don't know. That's a hard question. Yeah. And I've actually had it's interesting now because I'm at that point in my career where people can say to me, I grew up on your music. And then that's when it really starts to hit you, like, oh wow, yeah, I've been doing this for 20 years. If this person was in high school, in 2001, wow, yeah, they did grow up on my music,
I told you Daiquiri's, her cousin's husband. Hi, if you're watching, or hopefully I'm sure you will after I tell him this. His password and I'm sorry for blowing your password, was Just Blaze.
That's funny.
Yeah, in high school, that was his password. I forgot to get into his computer or whatever it was.
Right. So yeah,
you got any of those like that?
Well, but that's what I was gonna say. It's like when you have been this part of the soundtrack to people's lives, people do a lot of nice things for you. Yeah. I can't think of like one in particular off the top of my head. It's dude, I remember the early days of social media. I was really homesick, and there was a pizza place called Taormino's in Patterson, where I grew up, and this is when I was living in Manhattan, downtown. And I must have said something on MySpace or Twitter.
MySpace, wow.
Might have been MySpace. Might have been MySpace that Miss Taormino's Pizza, and I wanted some. Within an hour, one of my followers brought me some Taormino's Pizza.
That's pretty cool.
No strings attached. No, didn't want anything for it. Just like, thank you for everything you've done.
That's pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, I mean, that's not the nicest thing somebody's done for me, but it's just
a thoughtful.
Yeah, just like I said, I have a lot of moments like that in my life, and it kind of bugs me out, because I think sometimes we forget as we go out in our daily lives, we forget the impact that we've had on people.
Yeah. Are you big in social media?
Yeah, I run all my own social media.
You do it yourself? You do?
Yeah.
Okay, and then what platforms are you?
Mostly just...
Not MySpace.
No. It's funny, I actually tried to log into my MySpace the other day.
It's still around?
Yeah, MySpace. Yeah, I think, didn't Justin Timberlake buy into it in 2011 or something like that? Yeah.
I mean, it was supposed to, I don't know why it didn't go. I mean, it was supposed to be the big thing, and then I guess Facebook or...
Yeah, I mean, it's, those were the early days. But, and Tom made a bunch of money. Remember Tom from MySpace? He was like your first friend.
Yeah.
But
so what did Timberlake? What was his reason for? He's a talent. Have you ever worked with him?
No, I've actually never worked with him.
Talented guy.
Yeah, very. But yeah, no. So I'm mostly on Instagram and Twitter. I never got into the Snapchat thing.
Yeah, me neither.
And then I have like a Facebook fan page.
Where's the line between keeping the family guarded to sharing?
I
Because like you said, you're someone delivered a pizza. Like I'd be, And then how do you deal? So here's something. How do you deal with this? So I am nothing. Like you're not. So, but I have people that call to get on this show, and I've got people that reach out. And if you, so some of the things that I deal with, and I'm thinking, my God, a guy called me drunk the other day, harassing me, literally harassing me for a while. And I was like, what's the benefit? What'd you call for?
Right.
And I'm thinking, man, here. So how do you deal with this kind of stuff? Like, how do you deal? Like, people knew where you lived. Like, how do you? And if they get access to you, that's got to be scary too.
You have to keep your access limited. The guy that bought me the pizza, it turned out, was like a friend of a friend.
Okay.
He worked for a friend of mine.
Gotcha.
So it wasn't like a total stranger pulled up to my house. I also think I maybe met him down the block from the house just in case, regardless.
Yeah.
But you know what? Here's the thing. That's a very touchy subject. I have a phone number and email that does go directly to me that is for those situations.
Yeah.
But I keep it separate so I can turn it off when I want to, turn it on when I want to check it.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, you never know who you're gonna meet, who you're gonna come across. You may come across the next big thing. You won't want to necessarily give them the keys to the castle and let them have all your personal information, but maybe you want to give them a way to reach you. You know what I mean? So it's like, hey, this is an email. What I tend to do in my situation, people want to send me music most of the time or play me music. So I just say, hey, listen, whatever. I'm not going to stop and listen to it right now. Email to this address. It goes directly to me. Every couple of weeks, I take listens to music from that email. I'll log in and just listen to people's demos for a while. If something tickles my fancy, great.
How do you know? Like, what is it? Did people just sending you hip hop related stuff, or do you ever get other genres?
It's all types of stuff. Yeah. I mean,
what are you looking for or listening for? I should say.
Good music.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't care. I don't care what genre it is. If it's good, it's good. Yeah. Ultimately, if it moves me, that's all that matters. And when I say move, I don't mean physically. Like, it doesn't have to be something that I can dance to. Just has to stir something inside you.
And how often have you ever had a song that you've heard once that you're like, that doesn't do it for you, but then you'll give it another chance and it does? Or are you just like, you go with your gut, you hear it one time and that's it, because it's so much flow comes to you?
Every situation is different. There are some songs that I've heard at the top of. It's always different. There are songs, where like you hear it the first time right away, it's it. To be honest, I'm pretty much like a one-shot kind of guy. You know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong, there are records that I wasn't crazy about that ended up becoming hits. But that's because everybody's ear is different, But like, I generally know within 20 to 30 seconds of a song.
Wow, so that's the window.
Yeah, but I mean, I'll listen to it more than that. But like 20,
you'll know.
But like 20 to 30 seconds, and I can, kind of tell where the song's gonna go.
How much weight will the song carry depending upon who gives it to you versus the random person that sends something to you online versus whoever, someone that you've worked with before?
I mean, there's obviously, if it comes from somebody whose ears I respect, I'm gonna be more apt to listen to it. You know what I mean? But there's something to be said about that chance moment of somebody just randomly handing you a demo.
Has that ever happened?
And you just happen to take a listen and you're like, oh my, yeah, it has.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And it blows you away. You know what I mean? It's there's no rhyme nor reason to any of this stuff anymore. At all. You know what I mean? Like, because the playing field is so level.
Interesting.
Anybody can buy, like, you can buy a $300 iPad Mini 4 and make a record in your kitchen. You know what I mean? Like, from start to finish. It's a great time to be a creative. One of the things that I always tell people is it's a great time to be 10 years old. Because that's around the time that you start to figure out who you are, what you want, you know, and the possibilities are just endless. But yeah, back to what you were asking me. Because the technology, the tools for creativity are so accessible these days, there are people who had musical talent who didn't even know it. You know what I mean? Like, I've met guys, not just guys, girls, or people. I've met people who have played music that blew me away. And I'm like, yo, how long have you been writing? How long have you been doing this? 6 months.
Come on.
You know, also, I mean, we have a lot more, you know, think about it, like, we're in a similar age group. If you wanted to make a record, say like in the 80s and 90s, that was an investment. It was a very heavy investment. It was, somebody was paying for studio time, somebody was paying for gear and equipment and tapes and everything else. If you were trying to go for professional quality, you know what I mean? That's not the case anymore. It's you can make a record on your phone.
Okay, but so I think, or at least in my ignorant, humble opinion, I feel like, okay, so the playing field is leveled, but there's a lot of noise.
Right.
So how do you stand out?
Well, so that's the thing. What I was going to say is.
So I cut you off.
Yeah, it's fine. With the playing field being so level, and everybody having the accessibility, there's always that chance that somebody could hand you something that would change your life, along with changing theirs. You know what I mean? That's why I try to listen to it all. But again, I do know within like 30 or 40 seconds whether I'm gonna like something or not. But the one thing that I've always believed is that good music finds its way out, one way or another. So in regards to what you were asking me about, like seeing through the noise, there's so many stories that I have of records that I produced or wrote that I intended for one artist, and for whatever reason that artist wasn't into the idea, passed on it. It goes to another artist, ends up being a #1 record and selling 5 million copies.
Oh, how bummed is that other artist?
You know? But here's the thing. But here's the thing. If that first artist had recorded it, it doesn't necessarily mean that it would have been the same record.
That's a good point.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of times when artists aren't into an idea that I give them, I don't sweat it, because it's like, it
can't force it.
Yeah, it might not be a bad idea. It just might not be the right idea for you.
How many variables go into the success of, of an album or even just a song?
Oh man, the game is very different now. You know, it's radio doesn't matter the way that it used to. These days it's more so about streaming playlists, or playlists on streaming services, internet presence, social media presence, viral video presence.
Yeah, so like, I mean, I feel like there's so many. You go to one of these underground places and you can hear some really good music. Why doesn't a lot of that music, in my opinion, and I think I have a pretty decent ear, I listen to a lot of different music, really doesn't make it out. But a lot of the stuff that's on mainstream that I'm pretty disappointed in. And I'm like, these aren't artists. These aren't.
Well, yeah, because we're in the age of analytics.
Yeah.
And just to give you a breakdown in terms of what I mean, an A&R or somebody from a label discovers an artist, finds an artist. You know, they may have some things going on for them, they may not, but they see the talent. We need that person. We need to sign this person. Bring them in. They groom them. Get them with producers. Get them with writers, vocal coaching, stage coaching. You know, media training.
They invest in them.
They're cultivating and shaping an artist from the raw talent that they saw.
Gotcha.
Now
So they're invested.
Right.
There.
Now it's oh, you're an artist? All right, how many views do you have on YouTube? You know, how many streams do you have on Spotify? Like, you kind of already have done a lot of the work yourself. Labels these days aren't as apt to want to develop an artist. They just want to chase the next big thing that's coming. Because, like I said, the turnover rate is so high these days. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 2 to 3 years. What's a singer's turnover? What is that?
I mean, it depends. I mean, there's, like I said, we're seeing a lot more one-hit wonders. We're kind of almost back in the 80s era, or in the 80s again.
Past
the
predicts the
one-hit
future,
wonders.
huh?
Yeah. We're definitely in a singles-driven market again. And remember, the artists didn't always make albums. If you go back to like the 50s, 60s, artists just put out a song on 45. And then they just consistently put out singles. The album didn't come into play until a bit later.
Why? What's the benefit?
Well, because it's like, from a financial standpoint, it's like, all right, I don't have to commit to marketing a whole album for you. I can just, you have this one song that's working well in your area, and people in your neighborhood love it. I'm gonna take it, sign it, make it a hit worldwide, and then I have the first right of refusal for your next single. That used to be the business model.
Oh, okay.
Then LPs became the norm. Now what we're seeing is a shift back to singles and EPs. Because you have some kid who posts a video on YouTube and it goes viral, and next thing you know, it's got like 1 billion hits. So the label wants in on that, but they might not want in on the kid for long. They just want in on that movement. You know, so it's like, all right, we'll give you some money for that record, you know, and we have first right of refusal for your next song.
Do you like the business side of the music, or you like to stay in the creative?
You can't. No musician who wants to make a living doing this can afford to just stay with the creative. You have to understand the business.
Yeah.
No, you can't. It's it'll eat you alive. You know what I mean? And it's almost like being in a hospital. You're only gonna get what you advocate for. You know what I mean? Like, if you don't have somebody in your corner advocating for you, or if you're not advocating for yourself in terms of getting what you deserve and things of that nature, you're not going to get it. You know, like, a record label is not going to say, hey, let's give you the best deal possible.
Yeah.
Whether you're a producer, songwriter, artist, whatever. No. The goal is to keep as much money for yourself as you can.
And do you negotiate that? You have a lawyer that does that
It's a
for you?
little bit of both. I mean, I have I've been doing this for, like I said, this is my 20th year. I can read a contract. You know, my contracts don't vary that much, especially at this point in my career. It's like, these are pretty much the standards. This is my rate. This is my this is what I get for royalties. This is what I get for publishing.
Oh, so you get on royalties also? Not there's not just like a
Yeah. So as a creative, it's cool to want to lock yourself in your world and just paint or draw or write or sing or whatever it is you do, you know, but if you don't know how to monetize that, nobody's going to do it for you. So you have to understand the business. The same way I like with producers, I tell producers, you have to learn a bit of audio engineering, because you're making this music. You have to know how to shape it. You have to know how to execute the sounds. You can't just be, you know, the second as a producer, when you hand your record off to an engineer to mix and record, he's gonna do his own take on what he thinks you want, unless you can speak his language and communicate in a language that he understands. So even if somebody else is mixing the record, you need to learn enough about engineering to where you can communicate with the engineer.
So when you're talking about engineering, so I mean, I've been in your studio. I see your stuff. What is it that what's getting built on top when you're done? What are they doing?
Well, the engineer's kind of like, long story short, I get my record sounding ballpark to the way that I want it. Now the engineer does the tedious work, crosses the T's, dots the I's. If there's one word that's a little bit too low, he has to automate that. You know, if there's a little bit of a distortion in the sub-frequencies around 100 hertz, he's got to tweak that out. You know what I mean? Like, so he's basically taking my finished product, putting the polish on it, making sure that it falls where it needs to fall.
How much of that is ear versus looking at those?
It's a combination of both.
Okay.
You know, but the reason I brought that up is we were talking about, you know, the
creative versus business.
Creative versus business. It's, you have to, in this day and age, be able to. You do have to kind of be a machine. You know what I mean? Like, just to know every aspect of your craft. You don't have to necessarily be a master of every aspect of everything that comes along with your craft, but you have to speak those languages.
And then how important is it, like when I talk about like a network, I always say you got to surround yourself with the weakness of the individual with the strength of the group.
Yeah.
You know, how much of that relates to...
Oh, definitely. No, like, you know, listen.
Like know your lane.
Yeah, when I'm in a studio, there's a very different energy. Like if I'm in a studio and I'm surrounded by people who are all trying to figure it out, or who just are kind of just middling through whatever they're dealing with, that's one energy. The networking who you surround yourself with is very important. Ultimately, you should always surround, I try to surround myself with people who are better than me. I know my strength. I'm a great producer. I'm a great arranger. I'm not the best musician. Like, I can hear a great piano riff or a great guitar riff. I can't necessarily play it, but I know who to get to play it. You know what I mean?
Yep, of course.
So, part of me being the producer is delivering that creative vision and that finished product to the label or to the client, whoever the client is. So I try to surround myself, like I said, with people who can do the things that I hear better than I can do. But you can apply that to life in general.
Yep.
You surround yourself with people who are doing better than you or doing things that you would like to do. Learn from them, you know what I mean? That's how you move forward.
Did you have a mentor?
No.
Interesting.
Well, I think, you know what?
Maybe not a formal one, or did you?
Yeah, you know, I take that back. So, in terms of production, no. My running joke is that my mentor was everybody that I grew up listening to. Because I was, you know, self-taught via listening. In terms of the technical side of things, I used to intern at a studio called The Cutting Room. And small space, small place. The most of what I learned about engineering, I learned there. And staff engineers there, guys like my friend, and I'm still friends with them all to this day. Christos, Nasty, Ken Lewis, Dave Crafer, a few other guys like they just basically let me sit in on their sessions and watch and learn, because I didn't know a lot about the technical side of engineering. I knew how to make music, I knew how to make beats, I knew a little bit how to make songs, but I didn't know how to take the whole product and put it together. So I think that was probably the closest thing that I ever had to a mentor, was those guys just letting me sit in on their sessions and
what about
watch
you?
and learn.
Is there anyone that you've kind of taken under your wing?
I have, to varying degrees of success. But actually, let me take that back. Just about everybody that I've taken under my wing has found success,
Really? Cool.
one way or another. But I have to be careful with it because of the nature of the business that I'm in.
What do you mean, giving them access, you mean? Or
Yes.
is it
Well,
like...
here's the thing. There's a lot of money in what I do. And there's, along with the fact that there's a lot of money in this industry, there's a lot of misconception and preconceived notion about how the business works. And everybody kind of has their own idea of what, of what happens in the business. I say all that to say that, like, I've had situations where I've taken people under the wing and it's gone on really well. And they've gone on to do great things. I've also taken people under the wing and gotten burned. Long story short, one guy that I took under the wing, and I literally like fed him, clothed him, treated him like family, helped him out financially, got him a bunch of work in music, put him on a bunch of records. My company didn't take any commissions. We just felt he was talented and was trying to, we were trying to get him on his feet. It's went on for maybe like, I don't know, 5 years or so.
Oh, long time.
Yeah, we really took care of you. Like, I'm easy. When you're in the circle, you're in the circle. You know what I mean? Yeah. And long story short, he ended up kind of just disappearing. Popped back up trying to sue me for $5 million, claiming that I stole a song from him.
You gotta love that.
A song that sold 10 million copies. Just without going through the whole thing. It's too long of a story. It got thrown out. The judge enforced a settlement. And he knew that it was a fraudulent case. And he was like, listen, he basically said, I'm tired of seeing Mr. Smith in this courtroom. Like he's sorry, I gotta figure out how to put this on camera. All right, I got it. The judge got tired of seeing me in court fighting a BS case. And he was being very lenient at first, then eventually he realized, oh no, I see what this is. This is a money grab. And the judge just basically gave him enough rope to hang himself. And I spent defending myself about $330,000.
Come on. Can you then go recoup? No.
That was the one thing the judge, because the magistrate judge was like, I'm going to enforce the settlement. The only thing is you're not going to be able to, I think he barred me from being able to go after him for his legal fees.
And you just did that just to stop it, just to end it, because it's good
But here's
money
the thing
after
is,
bad.
he doesn't have $330,000. So it's like, you sue somebody for your legal fees that they don't have. What's the point?
Yeah.
So I bring that up to say, like, about a year later or 9 months later, he had the audacity to call me. And without getting to that whole conversation, my thing was, I was just like, why? Did you just assume that I had it like that? That I just had money? He was like, yeah. And I'm like,
He now ruins it for the next people that you might, or that.
And that's what I'm saying. That's why I have to be extra cautious.
Yeah.
Because again, you have
realize the domino effect.
You have some people who just have different notions about what happens in the music business and have preconceived notions because of the amount of money that, like, dude, no, I don't have. See, I'm sure. Here's the thing. The judge told me, listen, this guy's looking to get paid. He's trying to sue you for $5 million. You give him $50,000, he'll go away. I was so incensed by somebody accusing me of theft of a song that I was very indignant on some, like, no, this is unacceptable. I was trying to, I felt like I was doing the right thing, defending my honor. Looking back, the lawyer was right. I should have just given him $50,000 to go away.
It's I mean, there's a whole other conversation, but there is, that's just a whole other conversation. We'll change gears.
Yeah, that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah. What, so
actually, I do have to leave soon. I just remembered because
So what's next? What do you got going on? What's your latest and greatest project besides your home?
That's really good.
I'm sorry to break that.
No, like there's I'm trying to think. Actually, to be honest, there's a couple of big partnerships that I'm working on in the tech industry right now that
in the tech industry?
Music technology.
Oh, gotcha.
That I can't really talk about yet.
Okay, gotcha. Who are good contacts for you? So who are people that everyone has some kind of good contacts no matter what they do in their life or in their field. Are there people, is it the artists that are good contacts for you? Is it other producers? How much cross collaboration is it? Is it the business people?
I mean, the music industry, as big as it is, it's very small.
Is it? So you know who you got to know.
Yeah, and
all the more reason these relationships are so important.
Exactly. It really is the key to everything. I mean, like I said, just to close it out, 70 to 80% of my work is really just based on relationships.
That much?
Yeah. I mean, because you got to think about it. It's like, I shouldn't say 70, 80, it's 50-50. Actually, no, you know what? When you really think about it, it's all relationships. Like, all right, like in 2016, I worked on Beyonce's Lemonade album. I landed that partially because of my talent, but she was able to access me easy because I know Jay.
And the trust factor.
Right, and there's a certain trust factor there because, like, she already had demo of the song done. If it wasn't me personally, like, she sent me the demo, she emailed it to me. I think I went to the, she emailed it to me. I don't see people don't email songs. You know what I mean? There's a certain trust factor that's there where it's like, all right, we can send this to him.
Yeah.
And that's just like one example, but like really, everything that I've done really is based on a relationship that I have. I mean, think about it. Life is a series of chance meetings. How you handle those chance meetings is what determines where you end up.
So true.
So that's why I say ultimately it's all relationship based. Life is just one giant game of networking and relationships.
So funny. So I think what crystallized that for me, and that's how you operate, was not just from our interactions, but so. Bryna's 40th, when you threw her party, which is, by the way, was a great party.
Thanks.
Yeah, so I met a bunch of people. You're just sitting around talking, and so there were people that were there from high school that you grew up with, from like every phase of your life. Were some of the people that I met. And then even, do you mind, because I'm not going to do this justice, but you ruined it for every guy there, by the way, when you remember you told the story of your relationship through
the songs, yeah.
Through the song. You ruined it for us, man, because every other guy is like looking at their wife or their girlfriend, like, we're not going to be able to do this,
Right.
Do you mind giving a synopsis of what you did and who you had show up? And that's a perfect example too, because then and even for your birthday, when people showed up from years ago.
So so for one of the things that me and my wife bonded over and poked fun at each other about and whatnot. It was like she loves the Far Side's first album, Bizarre Ride to the Far Side, the album that has Passing Me By. And I never had that album when I was younger, so I didn't get into it. I knew the singles, I didn't know the album.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So my argument was I like Souls of Mischief better. So, and it's, it's more like, it's the friendly argument. So, but then the one thing that we both bonded over was that we loved the Pete Rock and CL Smooth's Main Ingredient album. I like Main Ingredient much more than the first album, personally. So for her birthday, flew out a bunch of her closest friends from that same age group, and from where she's from, and flew out the Far Side and CL Smooth to do all their classic records. Now, Far Side still plays like huge festivals and things like that. Like, I can't afford to pay Far Side rates, for them to charge for a festival.
Yeah.
But I wanted to make this happen. They're like, dude, it's you. And the thing is, I don't even know those guys. It was just a mutual.
Oh, really? Oh.
It was just a mutual respect.
So that was from friends that validated who you were.
Exactly. Well, we had mutual friends.
Yeah.
But it was like, but they're looking at it like, yo, that's Just Blaze. I'm looking at it like, oh, that's the Far Side. So it's like, all right, yeah, it's we're peers in that sense.
Yeah.
So I just bought their plane tickets.
That's all you had.
I bought their plane tickets, yeah, and then
you ruined it for all guys on how you told. I'm gonna stick this away. You told the story of your relationship through their songs.
Yeah.
That was like, so forget about that they were even there. Like you could have, like, they didn't even need to be there by how well you told the story of the relationship through this song. Oh, and then. Well, again, and then
I don't need to be honest. I do that.
Did you guys film that? Did you?
I hope somebody did.
Are you kidding me? So you don't have that anymore?
I personally don't. I'm sure somebody does.
Yeah, you got to get that. That was.
Yeah, no, you know what? The thing is, I did that off the cuff. I don't even remember what I said.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I made that up as I went along.
Yeah, I'm gonna edit this out because that's even worse. Like, that's crazy. You're able to just do it.
Yeah, I totally don't remember what I said.
Really? I hope someone has that on film, because that was honestly, like, we were, the bunch of us, the guys that were sitting in the back were like, "What? Damn him!"
Wow.
Yeah.
But it's part of what I do at shows. I do that all the time. Like,
oh, is that?
I try to find ways to make the songs make sense as I'm playing them.
So you're able to so instead of also thinking about all the songs that you got to play in a row,
I'm trying to tell a story with the song. Yeah.
So how is that? How much practice did that take to be able to do?
I've never practiced it.
That's just it's a
just a thing.
Because that takes on. I DJ'd for a year,
right?
1 year, and it was just a Saturday, everything, or whatever, and it was hard. It was really, because bunch of things. First of all, you had people that just think that they want to hear the song. You get that piece,
right?
But then you also you've got to think about what the flow from one song to the next,
right?
And and you got to build.
You got to build. A lot. You're taking people on a journey when you're DJing.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And it was really, and then some songs are 2.5 minutes, some songs are 4, some songs you need to cut out before it gets to
some songs you only need to play certain parts of it.
Yeah.
It's not as easy as people think it is. People, they see it on TV or on stage, they're thinking guys just playing records. No, there's a whole.
Yeah, and then you got people coming up to you too.
Oh,
so
God.
You gotta how are you? Yeah.
I try to be respectful of people. Obviously in a lot of those situations, everybody feels like they're the only one that. A lot of those people feel like they're the only ones that are asking you for something. I also tend to try to not DJ in places where I'm accessible like that.
Yeah, just
Yeah. Like, if I'm within arm's reach of a random party goer, then I probably don't need to be at that party. It's because
but you weren't always able to do that. You had you had
definitely. But it's funny. I mean, sometimes people don't. It's like, this guy's the DJ for a reason. Let him do his job.
Yeah.
It's now the new thing is people just put the song they want to hear on their phone and they show you their phone.
Oh, you got to be kidding me.
Oh, man. Dude,
there's a pro and con to this technology, man.
Exactly.
Listen, I know you got to get out of here. Thank you for coming, my friend.
Anytime.
Yeah. No, this was great.